My name is Odalise Marwood. That Sunday, my mom was having her big 70th birthday party at the country club in Naples, Florida. It was a sunny day, the kind of day where the sky is so blue it almost hurts to look at it. There were balloons everywhere, big, shiny ones and smaller ones tied to every chair. The tables were covered with white cloth and the flowers smelled sweet like spring. My mom went up on stage. She had the microphone in her hand and a smile that looked very practiced. She started handing out SeaWorld passes to every grandchild. She did it one by one. Every time a child got a pass, everyone clapped. The clapping was so loud it felt like we were at the Oscars. People were smiling, taking pictures and cheering. The air was full of excitement. When she got to my 8-year-old son, Eric's, she stopped. The microphone was still in her hand, and she looked straight at me. She smiled that tight little smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then she said something so loud that everyone at every table could hear. "Sorry, these passes aren't for kids without a dad." Then, like she hadn't just said that, she turned and gave the last 3 envelopes to the neighbors' kids. Right in front of Eric's. Eric's didn't scream. He didn't throw a fit. He didn't even make a sound. He just looked up at me. His eyes were wide, and it was like his whole world had cracked into a million pieces. I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just took his hand. His little hand felt so small and fragile in mine. We walked out of the party quietly. On the drive home, the car was silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Finally, in the tiniest voice I had ever heard him use, Eric's asked, "Mom, did Grandma say that because I don't have a dad? Did I do something wrong?" That was the moment I knew that this was bigger than just a mean comment. This wasn't going to end with a simple apology. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? 3 days later, Eric's was back at school. On the outside, he acted like everything was normal, but I could see it in the way he hugged his backpack tighter than usual every morning. His shoulders were tense, and he moved slowly. I couldn't sleep at night. I kept replaying my mom's voice in my head, over and over. I kept remembering the way the clapping stopped the moment she finished her words. Around 2 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I got out of bed and grabbed my laptop. I started digging through old emails. That's when I found the paperwork from last spring. My mom had been bragging nonstop about starting the Isolde Renford Family Scholarship Fund at our church. She said it was to help kids in need and to honor our family name. She had needed a second signature to open the account because the bank required 2 people to sign for anything over $10,000. I had signed as a favor. I thought it would make her happy and get her off my back. I never removed my name from the account. I logged in and saw the balance. $18,000. Exactly the money that the congregation had donated over the past 14 months, so our family name could help deserving kids. My mom had turned it into her favorite thing to brag about at every coffee hour and women's Bible study. I hadn't touched a single penny. I'm a nurse, not a thief. I knew the fund's rules very well because I had helped write them. According to the bylaws, any co-signer could request an immediate hold if there were concerns about mismanagement. It only took 1 email to the bank with a copy to the church treasurer. That's all it took to stop anything from happening until things could be checked. At 2:17 a.m., I typed a letter. I made it formal, professional, and cold. I cited the exact clause in the bylaws and attached a scanned copy. I hit send to both the bank's compliance team and the church office. I added one small line at the bottom. Pending a full independent audit. Please freeze all activity immediately. 11 minutes later, I got the automated reply. The account was frozen. No withdrawals, no transfers, nothing could happen until further notice. I just stared at the screen. My hands weren't shaking. I felt quiet. It was like I had flipped the first domino, and there was no going back. The next morning, I took Eric's to school. When I came home, my phone was full of missed calls. 27 to be exact. And the texts. There were so many I didn't even start counting. They started with sweetheart, and ended with 3 pages in all caps calling me ungrateful. I didn't answer a single one. By lunchtime, the church treasurer, Mrs. Zephira, called me personally. She sounded nervous. "Odalise, we've never had to do this before," she said. "The bank confirmed the hold is active. Isolde tried to write a check for the fall semester recipients, and it bounced. She's asking a lot of questions." I told her the truth. I had real concerns about transparency and wanted an outside audit before any more money moved. She promised to schedule an emergency finance committee meeting that week. That night, something that hadn't happened in years happened. Eric's crawled into my bed at 3 a.m. He hadn't done that since he was 5. He whispered, "Mommy, is Grandma mad at you now because of me?" I pulled him close and told him the truth, the only thing I could. "No, baby. She's mad at me because I finally stopped her from using money to control people." He snuggled into my shoulder and fell asleep, breathing slow and even. For the first time in days, I felt a little peace. Friday evening came, and my mom showed up unannounced. She was still wearing the pearl necklace from her birthday party. She didn't ring the bell. She just walked in like she still owned the place. Eric's was in the living room, quietly coloring. She looked at him, then at me and said, "Fix it. Call the bank on Monday and unfreeze my fund." I stayed calm. I told her, "The hold stays until the audit is complete." She laughed, a short, sharp laugh. "You think you're hurting me? That money is for the family name." I looked her straight in the eye. "Then the family name can wait for an audit." She left without another word, tires squealing as she drove away. The following Tuesday, I got the official letter from the church. The independent audit was scheduled for the end of the month. All activity was frozen. Because I was still a co-signer, I would be the only one allowed to approve any future payments once the audit was done. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer, and closed my laptop. And that night, I slept through the whole night for the first time since that Sunday. 2 weeks later, I opened the church Facebook group. There it was, right at the top of my feed. A post from my mom's SeaWorld party. 20 photos. Cousins screaming on roller coasters, aunts holding giant balloons, the Larson kids front and center with new wristbands and stuffed animals. My mom's arms were wrapped around their shoulders, like they were the only grandchildren she had. Eric's face wasn't in a single picture. The caption said, "Making priceless memories with all my beautiful grandbabies." And then 15 pink heart emojis. That same afternoon, Eric's came home from school. He dropped his backpack by the door, went straight to the kitchen drawer where he kept all the artwork he had made for Grandma. The rainbows, stick figure families, the I love Grandma hearts, he pulled out every single drawing. And then, quietly, he tore them into tiny pieces. He let the scraps fall into the trash like confetti. Then he washed his hands, asked for apple slices with peanut butter, and ate them at the table like nothing had happened. Friday evening came again. The doorbell rang 3 short, angry bursts. My mom was standing there in cream linen pants, diamond earrings flashing, no gift bag. No practice smile. She pushed past me into the foyer like she still owned the place. Eric's was on the living room floor, building a Lego spaceship. She stopped in the doorway, arms folded so tight her knuckles went white. "I came to see my grandson," she said loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Eric's glanced up, saw who it was, and went back to his Legos. "Eric's, come give Grandma a hug right now," she said. He kept building. She took 1 step closer. "Young man, I'm speaking to you." Silence. Eric's hands froze in the air, holding a Lego piece. Then he slowly stood up, walked past both of us without looking up, went straight to his bedroom, and slammed the door so hard the windows shook. A picture frame fell off the wall. I turned to her. "Get out of my house." She gave that short, bitter laugh I knew too well. "You think you're teaching me a lesson? You need me more than I need you." For one heartbeat, I thought she might fight. But she didn't. She spun on her heel, marched back to her white Cadillac, reversed, and drove away so fast I could see rubber on the street. I found Eric's on his bed, knees pulled to his chest, staring at the wall. I sat beside him. We stayed quiet for what felt like hours. Finally he spoke, voice small but steady. "Mom, I don't want to see Grandma anymore. Ever." My chest cracked wide open, but I kept my voice calm. "Okay, baby." He looked up at me, eyes completely dry. "Is that bad?" he asked. "No," I said. "That's you deciding who gets to be in your life. That's never bad." He nodded once, then crawled into my lap like he used to when he was 4. I held him until the street lights came on outside and the house settled into a quiet I hadn't felt in years. Later, after I tucked him in and kissed his forehead, I stood in the hallway for a long time. Something irreversible had just happened. It wasn't me shielding him anymore. He had drawn the line himself. Monday morning came, and I knew exactly what I had to do. I poured coffee, sat at the kitchen table while Eric's finished his cereal, and called Aunt Lysandra Renford Coleman, my mom's younger sister and the church treasurer for the last 15 years. She answered on the first ring. "Cassie, I've been waiting," she said before I even said hello. I swallowed hard. "I'm sending you 4 audio files from Mom's birthday party, and the names of 3 witnesses who were standing less than 10 feet away. Do you have 30 minutes? "I have 30 minutes right now," she said. I attached everything and hit send while we were still on the line. She stayed quiet while the files were copying. The computer hummed, and I could hear the soft clicking of the hard drive as each file moved slowly from one folder to another. My heart beat faster. I knew what these files could do, and I knew how much courage it took for her to share them. When the last file finished transferring, she let out a long, furious breath, like a storm leaving a cloud. "Emergency meeting tonight at 7, she said, her voice strong and sharp like steel. "I'm going to play these on the church sound system. You don't have to be there." I closed my eyes for a moment. "Thank you," I whispered, feeling a mix of relief and nervousness. "Don't thank me yet," she said, and then she hung up. The click of the phone made the room feel empty, but I could still hear her determination hanging in the air. That night, I kept Eric's awake a little longer than usual. Normally, he goes to bed at 8, but tonight I read 3 extra chapters of his spaceship book. Anything to keep my mind busy. Anything to distract myself from the worry that was crawling in my chest. Eric's listened intently, his eyes wide, hanging on to every word about rocket engines and distant planets. His little fingers fiddled with his blanket, and I thought about how safe and small our world felt right there in his bedroom. At 9:27 p.m., my phone buzzed. I jumped a little, my heart skipping a beat. It was a message from Lysandra. It was just a thumbs-up emoji, nothing else. But that tiny little symbol made me feel like she was there with us, ready to fight for us, ready to protect us. Tuesday, 7:58 a.m. The church website posted an announcement. Everyone who drank their morning coffee could see it. I opened it and read the words carefully, almost not believing them. It said, "After review of recorded evidence involving the public humiliation of a minor child at a private family event, the session has voted unanimously to decline the Renford family's $25,000 annual pledge effective immediately. Mrs. Isolde Renford is no longer permitted on church property for worship events or any other purpose until further notice. We ask the congregation to pray for healing in all affected families." I read it again, then again. Each word hit me like a small, sharp rock. The church had taken action. Finally, justice was moving, even if slowly. By 8:15 a.m., the private Facebook group had exploded. 428 reactions and comments were pouring in faster than I could even scroll. Some people posted prayer hands. Others just wrote, "Finally." I could feel the relief and satisfaction of people who had been waiting for justice quietly, behind their screens, hoping the right thing would happen. At 9:03 a.m., the country club called. My mom's membership, which was paid through 2026, is suspended because of conduct that violates our community standards. The manager even apologized to me, they said. My jaw dropped. Even the place where my mom had once been respected and admired had turned against her. By 10 a.m., the first casserole appeared on my porch. A note in perfect Sunday school handwriting said, "We are so sorry. Love, the Ramirez family." I smiled through tears. The kindness of strangers and friends was warming me in a way I didn't expect. By noon, 6 more casseroles had arrived. My freezer had never been so full, packed with food and love from people who cared. At 1:17 p.m., the Naples Daily News ran a short article on page A3. Longtime Naples philanthropist removed from local church following incident at private celebration. The headline didn't say names, but everyone in town knew exactly who it was. Every neighbor, every person I had ever spoken to about the church, knew my mom had finally lost her grip on her perfect image. At 2:45 p.m., Virali, my mom's best friend since 1974, called me crying. She drove over, screaming that the recordings were fake, made by a computer. When I told her I had heard them myself, she screamed my real name, Judith, and drove off, leaving me stunned. It was a strange mix of relief and exhaustion, knowing people were finally realizing the truth, and also knowing the fight wasn't over. At 4:12 p.m., the preschool sent an email. Several parents had asked if anyone needed help after the family matter that had been in the news. Even small gestures like this felt like sunshine after a long storm. At 6:30 p.m., Lysandra pulled into my driveway in her silver Lexus. She walked in, kicked off her heels, poured herself a glass of iced tea, and handed me a thick cream envelope sealed with the church crest. My hands shook as I took it. Inside was the new scholarship charter, already signed by the entire finance committee. Page 1 in bold letters read, Eric's Marwood Single Parent Family Scholarship Annual Full Ride Award, renewable through college, funded anonymously in perpetuity. I stared at her. "You didn't have to do this," I whispered. "Yes, I did," she said firmly. I've waited 22 years of interest to pay back. Eric's wandered in, looking for juice. Lysandra crouched down and opened her arms. He ran straight into them, hugging her neck like she was the safest place on earth. She whispered something in his ear that made him giggle. Then she looked at me. The vote was 14 yes, she said quietly. Even the 2 women who taught Sunday school with your mother for 30 years voted yes. Your mom tried to speak. The head deacon asked her to leave. She refused. Security walked her out. Isolde lost her stage, her money, and her audience in less than 24 hours. She's going to come for you harder now. Be ready. I nodded. I was ready. A month and a half later, the siege began. The white Cadillac started rolling past our house every few days, crawling so slowly I could see my mom's silhouette behind the tinted windows. Sometimes it just sat at the curb for 10 full minutes before drifting away. Wilted roses appeared on the porch in crystal vases, cards in perfect cursive saying, "Grandma loves you, Eric's. I miss my little man." I left them there until the sprinklers turned the ink to purple streaks and the ants claimed the petals. The voicemails came in waves. First soft, broken by tears. "I made a terrible mistake. Please let me see him. I'm so sorry." Then they grew longer. 5 full minutes of sobbing about how empty the house felt, how the church had turned its knife in her back, how I was stealing her only grandson. Then the tone flipped cold. One night, she left 9 messages back to back. The final one was pure anger. "If you don't let me see Eric's this week, I'm filing for court-ordered grandparent visitation. The judge is going to ask why a loving grandmother is being kept from her only grandson. And I'll make sure he hears every detail about how you locked up money meant for needy children." 2 days later, a new Facebook profile appeared under the name Concerned Naples Grandma, posting in the church group. "Please pray for a mother falsely accused of stealing charity funds by her own daughter." The comments exploded with question marks until Lysandra had the account banned. The following weekend, a silver sedan I didn't recognize parked across the street from dawn to dusk. I photographed the plate and sent it to Lysandra's attorney. The next Monday, a process server rang the bell with court papers claiming I was alienating the child from his only remaining grandparent and requesting twice-monthly supervised visits. I refused to sign. Lysandra's lawyer shredded the filing the same afternoon. That same week, my mom showed up after dark, pounding on the door hard enough to rattle the hinges. Eric's woke up crying. I watched through the peephole as she screamed that I was destroying everything she'd built. A neighbor called the police. The responding officer recognized her immediately, but still issued a trespass warning on the spot. She drove off with squealing tires. The morning after the police visit, Lysandra's attorney sent a certified mail by courier. Any further direct or indirect contact, attempted visitation, or defamatory statements would result in immediate release of 4 authenticated recordings to the Naples Daily News, WINC News, and the Collier County Sheriff's Office for investigation of harassment and emotional abuse of a minor. This was your final notice. 48 hours of perfect silence followed. Then at 2:03 a.m., one last voicemail from a blocked number. Her voice was hoarse, shaking with rage and something that almost sounded like terror. "You think this is over? You think freezing my money and turning my own church against me makes you the hero of the year? I built every connection you pretend to have. Every friend you think is on your side will drop you the second they see what a vicious, ungrateful daughter you really are. I will spend whatever it takes to make sure every soul in this town knows you're the woman who destroyed her own mother. I swear on my life, Odalise, you will live to regret this." I played it once, saved it, forwarded it to the attorney, blocked the number, and finally slept. The next day, I changed every lock, installed Ring cameras at every corner, and filed my own police report. The officer taking the statement shook his head. "Mrs. Renford brought us cookies every Christmas for 30 years. Hard to believe this is the same woman." Eric's asked about the new cameras. I told him we were just being extra safe. He nodded completely unbothered. "I like safety," he said and went back to his Legos. After that, the street stayed empty. No Cadillac, no flowers, no messages, no more fake Facebook accounts. My mom had finally run out of moves. 6 months passed, and the mailbox finally brought something good. A thick cream envelope with the church crest I now knew by heart. Inside was a letter on heavy stationery. "Dear Eric's Marwood, it is our privilege to inform you that you have been selected as the inaugural recipient of the Lysandra Coleman Single Parent Family Scholarship. This award guarantees full tuition, books, and fees from elementary school through college at any accredited institution of your choice. The commitment is lifelong and non-revocable. Eric's read it out loud 3 times, eyes wide, then looked up at me. Does this mean I get to go to any school I want forever? I laughed until I cried. Yes, baby, forever. 2 weeks later, the church workers quietly removed my mom's name from every brass plaque in the building. The one that used to say, "In loving memory of Harold Renford, gift of his wife Isolde," was replaced with a new plate that simply read "Anonymous Donor." The old plaques disappeared into storage, never to return. Old friends stopped inviting her to bridge club, book club, or the annual charity gala. The Christmas card list that once had 200 names shrank to a handful of pity signatures. People crossed the street when they saw her coming to Publix. The Marco Island beach house went on the market in early spring. The realtor's photos showed empty rooms and a motivated seller. Word spread quickly that she needed cash fast for legal fees and back taxes. The IRS even decided to audit her after an anonymous tip. One Thursday, a plain white envelope arrived. No return address, postmarked Naples. 6 handwritten pages in my mom's unmistakable cursive. She wrote about her childhood, my father's death, how proud she had been the day I was born, and how she only wanted the family to look perfect from the outside. Page 4 turned into begging. Just 1 visit. 1 hour. I'll meet you anywhere. I need to see my grandson before it's too late. The last page of the letter had marks on it, maybe from tears or maybe from perfume. I couldn't tell which. After dinner, I asked Eric's to sit with me at the kitchen table. "Grandma wrote you a letter," I said. "Do you want me to read it to you?" He thought for a moment, and then nodded slowly. I read every single word out loud. When I finished, the kitchen was very quiet. The only sound was the soft humming of the refrigerator. Eric's looked at the pages in his hands, then looked at me with a serious face. "I don't want to see her," he said calmly and with certainty. "I already have a family." He got up, gave me a hug, and ran off to play with the new telescope Lysandra had bought him. I folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope, and dropped it into the fireplace. That night, the paper curled and burned quickly, turning black in the flames. After that, Lysandra started visiting almost every other weekend. Eric's began calling her Grandma Lysandra without anyone telling him to. She taught him fun things like how to put bait on a fishing hook, let him win at Gene Rummy sometimes, and never once mentioned my mother's name. She just focused on loving Eric's. The scholarship fund Lysandra created began to grow. Other single moms from our church applied for help, and soon there was a long waiting list. Eric's picture, smiling in front of the school sign, became the face of the fund. One Sunday in May, I drove past the old church just to see it. The parking lot was full of cars, but the spot my mom had saved for herself for 40 years was empty. No one saved it for her anymore. 2 years later, Eric's turned 10. He had grown tall and full of energy. He could ride his bike without training wheels, scored goals in weekend soccer games, and told anyone who asked that he wanted to be an astronaut when he grew up. The shy little boy who once worried about doing something wrong was gone. Now he was a boy who laughed loudly, hugged tightly, and loved life with all his heart. On our living room wall hangs the framed certificate from the Lysandra Coleman Single-Parent Family Scholarship. It has a shiny gold seal, and Eric's dusts it every Sunday like it is the most important thing we own. Next to it is a photo of him and Grandma Lysandra on the pier, holding up matching redfish. Their cheeks were sunburned, and their faces were full of happiness and pure joy. Lysandra comes almost every Friday night now. She has her own key, her own coffee mug, and a bedroom in our house that we call Grandma's room. Eric started calling her Grandma Lysandra all by himself one weekend. She cried so hard she couldn't speak for 10 minutes. Now that is just who she is to him, and everyone in the house knows it. The scholarship fund Lysandra built has already helped 9 other kids in our county. Every year on Eric's birthday, the fund sends him drawings and thank you notes. He keeps every single one in a box under his bed and reads them whenever he wants to remember that even after hard times, good things can happen. My mother still lives in the big house on Gulf Shore, but the circular driveway stays empty. The Christmas lights weren't put up last year. The mailman says most days she only gets bills and junk mail. The neighbors say they haven't seen her walking her dog in months. Someone told me she sold the Cadillac and now uses ride shares. No one stops to talk to her anymore. Her name has quietly been removed from every donor board in town. The country club membership was not renewed. The church directory lists her phone number as disconnected. When people see her downtown, she keeps her eyes on the ground. The beach house on Marco Island was sold last spring. The listing said estate sale, which meant everything had to go. I heard it took 45 days to finish the sale because of unpaid taxes. No one asks about her anymore. Not once. Eric's has Grandma Lysandra, his soccer teammates, school friends, and a mom who finally sleeps through the night. That is enough. Sometimes people still ask me, "Have you heard from your mother?" My answer is always the same. No, and we are okay with that because here is what I have learned and what I want everyone to know. Never use a child to hurt someone else. Never make a little boy or girl feel small just to prove a point to another adult. One day, that child grows up, looks around, and chooses for themselves who really deserves to be in their life. And when they choose, that choice lasts forever. Eric's chose peace. He chose love without any strings. He chose us. And that choice turned every brick my mother had spent 70 years stacking into dust. Her perfect world fell apart, but our little family found happiness and love.